Welcome to this edition of the Boon of Wireless podcast, coming to you as always, high above the streets of northern New Jersey at ANJ Media. Yes, New Jersey, where the first European to sail into the region in 1524 was Giovanni da Verrazzano, an explorer from Florence who had set sail in the service of France. It took a while for the word to get back to Europe about our great saltwater taffy and hoagies, and the next Europeans to reach the Jersey Shore were Dutchmen, who arrived in 1611 and promptly opened the country's first Wawa. Andrew, do you believe that?
No, John. I believe it was a quick check.
It probably was a quick check. Okay, Andrew behind the glass as always. My guest today is a very interesting young man who has been begging to appear on the Boon of Wireless. Max Hietpas is an independent content creator who runs a YouTube channel called Max Tech Studios about phone plans and the wireless industry. His channel is consumer-oriented, focused on the best cell phone plans, reviews of carriers, and how to save the most money with your plan. Max started this channel in 2019, and his interest in wireless sparked in 2020. Since then, he's produced over 170 videos to over 4,000 subscribers, in addition to new viewers that find his videos by searching for such information. Max has worked with many different companies, including wireless carriers that offer him affiliate partnerships to promote their services. He is also on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram, where he shares this information in different ways to resonate with different audiences. Max has helped many people switch carriers and save money. He cuts the BS out and gets straight to the point, offering honest and unbiased information that is easy to understand. So please join me in welcoming him to the broadcast, Max Hietpas. Max, how are you today?
Doing very well, John. And I actually have one more little additional New Jersey fun fact for you.
Go ahead.
Did you know that 1.119% of all the viewers on my YouTube channel in the last year are from New Jersey?
Well, there you have it. There you have it. I don't know where that ranks on the scale of popularity. We have a lot of fun talking about New Jersey. Now, you're in Wisconsin, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about a little bit about Wisconsin before we jump into it.
Well, it's not all farmland and cows and all that stuff. You know, we also have content creators that make videos about phone plans.
Thank you. Let's jump right into it. Max, you're a fairly young man, probably the youngest guest that we've had on the podcast, but something about what we talked about leading up to today was very intriguing to me. And I said, you know what, let's get Max in here, and I'm not going to make fun of your age if you don't make fun of my age. But
All
anyway.
right. Sounds like a deal.
Sounds like a deal. So you run a YouTube channel where you produce videos covering cell phone plans in the wireless industry. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so my videos are very consumer facing and they're designed to be easy to understand for the consumer while still offering lots of information and even a deeper insight into the types of topics that I cover. And so some of the topics I cover are some of the best phone plans you can get for different types of people and different needs. So, you know, your single lines, your unlimited, your family plans, your budget plans, things like that. And I also get into full-on carrier reviews where I take a deeper dive into a specific carrier and kind of everything you need to know about it, which we'll cover in just a little bit. And another thing I've started to do more of this year is testing the networks of the carriers and often exposing secrets about them in the process, like when AT&T lowered the prioritization levels on many of their plans earlier this year. I was one of, if not the first, to actually test that with a few phones side by side on some of their different plans and find out.
And I know you're consumer facing, but when you do this type of research and testing, does that get back to the carriers?
Well, if the carriers find it, you know, it's obviously publicly available on YouTube, but I'm not necessarily, you know, giving or selling it to the carriers. But hey, if a carrier wants some analysis from me, hit me up.
Okay, and we'll talk about how to hit you up later in the program. Max, tell me how you test carriers and provide information based on what you find from your research and testing.
So when I'm testing a carrier, I look for the big picture and what they want to offer for consumers and kind of their position in the market. So as a recent example, I reviewed Metro by T-Mobile on my YouTube channel, and I delved pretty deep into some of the plan offerings they have and what I personally think of those. So they have their main lineup of the new Metro Flex plans, and then they also have a $25 unlimited plan. And they also still offer some of their older plans if you contact them via customer service. They're not available through direct channels. But I kind of compared all of those and concluded that the Metro Flex plans are actually not as good as some of the other options that they have or some of the other options from competitors. But so, in addition to the plans, I'll talk about my experience with the carrier activating the service, using the account manager, discussing fees that may come up for the customer, and how it performs on the network. And this is the type of process I'll go through for every single carrier I test and every review that I produce.
Now, when you're testing the carriers, obviously the MVNO audience is very large for our podcast. Um, is there a need to test the MVNOs as well, being that they're on the three nationwide providers?
Well, it's important to test them, especially when I find that they offer an interesting value proposition. And sometimes MVNOs will have different levels of network access compared to the major postpaid providers. And it's not as much about specifically the network. That's definitely a big piece of it, but it's also just the entire experience of activating and managing your account and all those different types of things with that carrier.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think what you told us through the process that you use, that's more research. Do you actually have phones from each carrier that you travel around? And back in the day, there were vans with antennas and all that kind of stuff. How do you do field testing of the network quality?
Yeah, so I'll definitely have that actual carrier active on one of my phones. That's a really important part. I actually have it. I'm not just talking about what I see it to be. I'm actually using it like someone would use it. And I have multiple phones. I test a different carrier side by side. That's I do some of that on my channel, like that video where I exposed the AT&T prioritization. I had three phones side by side on each of their consumer postpaid plans, but um, usually, I definitely do network speed testing personally, but I'll only do it in a video when there's a clear purpose for it to explain something.
Has there ever been a time where one of the carriers, lawyers, or uh, public relations people reached out to you to ask for more information or to refute something you may have said?
Nope.
No?
Nope,
Okay.
not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Well, I think as you grow in popularity and expand, that yeah, that's something that hopefully will happen. I never forget that I was running a company and we put something out there and we got a letter from their legal department, and of course I panicked. And my lawyer goes, "That's great. You're getting noticed." So
Yeah.
if you're not getting contacted by a lawyer or a public relations for a good thing, yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah.
You need to keep pushing the boundaries out there. All right. So we were talking earlier, running up to today, and you made the statement, and I quote you here, that most people don't care about their wireless service as long as it works for them. Is that actually true?
I think it is because, of course, in this day and age, people have a lot to worry about in their lives. And for many, wireless is just kind of seen as a utility, like electricity or water. It's just kind of an essential service that you need, and it costs what it costs. So it's definitely not going to be top of mind for people unless there's some type of issue, like the network's bad, or there's some crazy extra fee that was added to their bill that they have to take up with customer service, or something like that. Otherwise, people aren't really actively thinking about it. And this is a problem, in my opinion, because it means that all of a sudden it becomes normal to pay, over $100 for a single line. Um, and I might reference this later, but CNBC reported this year that the average phone bill in the US is $144 a month, which I just think is absolutely absurd. Yeah, it's pretty crazy compared to some of the options that I recommend for sure. And I'm not saying no one should get a plan from the three major carriers, but they definitely dominate the market share because consumers, again, either don't care about their service or they believe in outdated perception about affordable services that is just like inferior in terms of coverage or speeds. When again, it's the same towers. It's just difference in the plan offering and maybe some of the deals you can take advantage of.
Would I be wrong by saying that consumers do care about their service. They don't care about the price, or they're not aware of the price savings they can get if they listen to people like you that offer comparisons. I think by saying they don't care about their service may be a misnomer. That I care that my service works when I need it to work.
So I think what the two things that people care about are having enough data and having enough network coverage. But every carrier says they have those things. Everyone says they've just absolutely nailed their network and the plans and what you get out of the plans. But there really is more to it, and that can be confusing for people. So they just kind of settle for whatever is easiest, and that could cause them to pay more than they need to.
Okay. Interesting. I was interviewed a few weeks ago and asked about the difference between going to a carrier and going through an MVNO. And to my knowledge, the only real differentiator anymore, there's that word again, is domestic roaming. That if you're a customer of the big three carriers, you will roam. And we use our good friends in Montana and Idaho as examples. That if you're in New York City and you go take a week vacation, to go fly fishing, that yeah, you're gonna bounce onto the best network. But as an MVNO customer, because of the uncontrollable costs, you won't. Um, so that's one of the things that we always talk about is when someone wants to either go direct to one of the carriers through their corporate dealer-owned stores or their direct sales force versus going through an MVNO. If you're doing a lot of that, and I guess we should add Wisconsin to that list too. You've got a lot of open spaces. I mean, Wisconsin's pretty well covered, right? By all
Yeah,
three
we're
networks.
pretty good for
Yeah.
coverage. And one more
Good.
thing on that
Yeah.
domestic roaming is
Yeah.
number one, a lot of MVNOs are getting domestic roaming these days. And I might say this later on, but really the gap between the two is as small as it's ever been, which I think you're seeing a lot of also. And also, US Mobile just announced their teleportal network system where people can literally switch between the three networks on demand. So, there's also innovation at play there with respect to the network coverage.
All right. So you provided information that you've gathered from the consumers, and you state that this research does affect the carriers. How does the carrier know what you've provided to the consumers? How does the carrier know uh, what you're doing, and how do you know that this affects their decision making, possibly?
Well, and I'm not saying I'm guaranteeing that it does, but it absolutely could, especially if they see what I'm putting out. Because what the carriers want you to do is they want you to keep you into a walled garden in a sense. They'll rarely mention the competitors or compare themselves to others. It's very much they're talking about themselves and what they can offer. And again, people don't want to go through all kinds of stress with this, so they'll kind of just get what they can get. But one of the things I've done in my videos, and I can send you a picture if you want to put this on screen, I've put together cards that I use to illustrate what you get with each plan, not just what the carriers want to show and hide about their plans, but every important aspect, because almost every carrier will tell you they have the right plan for you. But what if you need lots of hotspot data and you go over the allotment with your plan? Or what if you need
Okay. Yeah, I see it's coming up on the screen right now. Okay, great. Let's take a look at that. Okay. Yeah, interesting.
And then what if you need like international calling to certain countries?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and not every option is suitable for every person the way that some carriers will make it out to be. And that's why my recommendations are specifically targeted towards different types of people and their needs.
Okay. Interesting. All right. All right. So let's pivot then for a moment. How are these creator partnerships a new way for the carriers and or the MVNOs to market their products and services? We've got more phones in use right now in the United States than men, women, and children. So how does this affect the way to market to current and potentially new customers?
Well, this is a great question because in this day and age, many are turning to independent creators like myself for info because they prefer, unbiased, honest content versus, advertising, which is to the extent you'd get from the carriers in terms of information. So carriers can work with creators like myself by offering free service to test out, and in exchange they receive exposure in a review type of video, and they can also offer an affiliate program where the creator will receive a kickback if someone signs up with their link. And most of the carriers are already doing this. I know I'm in a lot of carriers affiliate programs, um, and I'm personally open to creator partnerships with carriers, but I want to always retain how I'm honest and unbiased throughout what I'm talking about, and kind of use my script, not their script.
All
For
right,
sure.
good. You want to keep control. Good. All right. So the word unbiased has come up 3 times since we started talking. All right, how do you stay unbiased? Unbiased. I mean, everybody's had a bad experience with their carrier. Everybody's had a bad experience with their insurance company. Okay.
Yep.
So obviously you've had good and bad experiences
Yeah.
with cell phones. How do you stay unbiased and honest in your recommendations and informations that you provide? Not first to the subscriber, and then, if at all, with the carrier.
Well, so I don't necessarily provide information for the carriers, and it may be something I venture out into later on. But right now, my channel is definitely just consumer focused.
Okay,
Um,
but I'm
to,
a consumer, and I'm the senior vice president of engineering and marketing at Verizon,
yeah.
and I see you.
Mm,
That's gonna maybe not change the way I do business, but it's gonna stick in the back of my head that this gentleman just put a YouTube video out there with 4,000 subscribers, 1.3% of them in New Jersey, and wait a minute. Is
well,
this factual? Is my network actually doing this, or is our marketing message actually saying this? So, yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
People really appreciate my unbiased approach. And for the carriers that I'm talking about, especially, people trust my information in recommending that carrier more because the people know that it's coming from me and it's not being advertised. So they're going to trust it a lot more. So that could have a huge benefit for the carriers, and just encourage them to offer something that's genuinely good because they know I'd recommend it and people would trust that recommendation more.
Very good. Good. So, are you exploring new ways to communicate consumer information?
Yes, so in addition to the long form videos I make right now, I'm definitely trying new things. So, something you might see if you check out my page on X, formerly Twitter, is I'm posting threads about different things, like, what plan is best for Metro, or is AT&T worth it? Just kind of going bit by bit, getting into different parts of those, kind of like my carrier review videos, but again, in a different format. And then something else I'm going to start doing pretty soon with some of my videos are creating clips of those videos and publishing them as shorter videos for YouTube Shorts, X, Instagram, to again resonate with a different type of audience.
Fantastic. As I said earlier, you're probably the youngest guest, and maybe maybe the most intelligent. I and apologize to the other guests that have been on here about consumer needs and norms. How did you get interested in the wireless and involved with this industry of ours?
Well, so I started my YouTube channel in 2019, just kind of trying to make like general tech videos. I was kind of just covering whatever tech was lying around my house and kind of making videos about whatever I was interested in. But then around early 2020, we had the pandemic. I was stuck at home. We were looking for things to do. And I just kind of found an interest in wireless and cell phone plans. And it was kind of perfect timing because at the time, my family had an expensive plan from Sprint. The network was awful, and my parents needed new phones. So I had to figure out a solution to that. And what I ended up doing was switching my family to Mint Mobile, and we saved so much. And even though we bought unlocked phones at full price, the cheaper service saved us so much over time. And so I figured if that worked for my family and I, it could definitely work for a lot more. So that's kind of where the inspiration started to go forward with videos about wireless plans.
Do you get feedback from your subscribers? Is there a path for them to say that was the best, advice I've gotten, or hey, I think you may be right on this point, but wrong on this point? Do you have a two-way communication
Yeah,
path? And yeah, it,
yeah, because of course the comments are open on all my videos. So people can leave comments, and if you go on my X account, sometimes I'll repost comments that people have made, like you saved me $80 per month, or great video, stuff like that. And sometimes people will ask questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Sometimes people will have constructive criticism, and I'll take that into account. And people can also email me to ask questions, more deeper involved questions. I had someone earlier this year that was actually moving to Wisconsin a different part than I was living in, and like she had some plan on Verizon and she bought a new unlocked iPhone and she wanted to know what the best plan was. I found her something that was $20 a month.
Oh,
So pretty cool.
terrific,
So if people want to
terrific.
email me, I'm more than open to answering questions through that as well.
Great. Yeah, I mean, testimonials, referrals, that's the best way to grow your business. And I'm assuming that you do that. You take Sally J's name and with her comments, right?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the changes in the business that's been going on for quite some time is prepaid versus postpaid. I don't know if you have cable TV or probably not. Everybody's cut the cord now. But even when you have a postpaid phone, you're paying in advance, right? You're getting your bill on I don't know what's today. It's end of July. You're getting your bill end of June. You're getting your July bill. That is prepaying it. Now there are differences on what happens at the end of the month if you don't re-up versus going into, not paying your bill for 3 months, then going into the collections. In your opinion, what do you think is better for the consumer, prepaid or postpaid?
So for overall simplicity of experience, I think prepaid wins by a landslide.
Why
Because
is that?
well, the billing is transparent. It's just upfront. You just pay before and you get it. You don't have to run credit. Um, you don't have to get into contracts with your phone. You own your phone basically. You can, as long as it's unlocked, you can freely switch it between one carrier to the other. So it's more flexible and more, you're kind of more in control with prepaid. And prepaid, generally costs less and provides a better value for that money. And there's exceptions. There are plenty of good postpaid options out there, and postpaid is absolutely a very viable option for many. I think the biggest drawbacks of postpaid would be you have to run a credit check. Prices are generally overall higher, and if you want that deal on a phone, you got to get locked into a contract that's 2 or 3 years on that phone. And if you want to change your plan or cancel your service, then you're met with big fees and having to pay off that phone.
Right. History has shown us, though, and this is not to uh, dispute anything you just said. I think you're absolutely right on target. But history has shown us that Wall Street, in their quarter to quarter thinking, and especially when there's an acquisition, values postpaid customers a lot higher, and I mean a lot higher than prepaid customers. Despite that, you mentioned to me earlier this week that the carriers are putting a larger emphasis on prepaid and their MVNOs than ever before. Talk to me about that.
Well, of course, in an ideal world, the MNO would want everyone on their own postpaid service, but that's obviously never going to happen. But it's equally really easy for an MNO to just say, "Hey, you can buy all this data from us at this price, resell it, get more people on our network." So MVNOs are a really good market for MNOs, and people want service that's simpler, and this is a growing market. And that perception that prepaid is less good, or it's slow, or it doesn't give me good coverage, that's fading away. Not only because it's just true and it's been true for a little while, but also because the limits that we did have set in place for prepaid are kind of vanishing away. For example, I don't know if you remember this, but about 8 years ago, Verizon had a 5 megabit per second down and 2 megabit per second up speed cap for their MVNOs. That's gone now. Now their MVNOs can access the best of their network in terms of access, and so now that gap between postpaid and prepaid is the smallest it's ever been, and that's why it's so much easier for me to recommend prepaid to people.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure if you remember this, but back when prepaid came out, it was for what we call the unbankable people that wouldn't pass a credit check or didn't have a credit card for automatic payment. And it was called a burner phone that was used by people that didn't want to be found, people that dealt in illicit crimes and the so-called organized crime. And the stigma now, as you said, is gone to have a prepaid phone. It's you look at the three or four largest what were MVNOs and now are brands. You mentioned Metro, was Metro PCS, now Metro by T-Mobile. You've got Cricket, owned by AT&T. You've got the whole TracFone family, owned by Verizon, which made them overnight the largest prepaid carrier in the country, and Boost, which was an MVNO and now is part of Dish as one of their brands. So they have embraced it. They're being very aggressive right now in looking for new MVNOs that can bring value to a customer. We always ask when someone wants to be an MVNO, I'm going to use the word again, what's your differentiator? Because the carriers, when they put MVNOs on, they don't want a me too. They want somebody who's got a different value proposition that's going to grow the business, not cannibalize it. So, yeah, it's interesting. Um, you do a lot of analysis, you do a lot of research, obviously. What should someone pay? I know everybody's situation is different. If I want a consumer cellular was very successful, $1.6 billion buyout for 4 million customers because they cater to the older groups that didn't need unlimited data, 20 gigabytes of data, and they were very successful with that. There are people that are using 80, 90 gigs of data a month. So it's all over the map. But is it fair for me to ask you, what should somebody, the average consumer, and you can probably tell me, I think the average data use per month right now on an average is somewhere in the 15 to 18 gig. Is that still
Yeah, so
accurate?
these days it's about 30 gigs according to
Okay.
the latest information. So it's going
Okay.
up, but I
Okay.
think, of course, depending on your usage, for one line, if you just need the service and you're good with the phone you already have, you should only be paying between like 15 to $50 a month for
Well,
a one
that's a
line of
big
service.
spread. 15 to
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
50 to
because
50 is a big
people
spread.
do have different needs for sure.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then if you need a new phone, then again, for just you, just one person, it should be like 30 to $70 a month. Again, depending on your needs. These are going to be kind of wider ranges, just because again, people do have different things they need out of their plans. Some only need 5 gigs of data. Some need an unlimited plan. But if you need a new phone, your phone and your service together should be 30 to $70 a month. And then for families, if you just need the service, it should be like 90 to 130. If you need the phone and the service, so you want new phones for your family, it should be like 100 to 150 a month, depending on your needs.
I've been in this industry for a very long time, and I can't answer the question I'm about to ask you. Why is the wireless industry so confusing for consumers?
Yeah, it really
Why?
is. It really is. And this is why I said a lot of people don't care. Yes, partially because they've got a lot of other things to worry about, but also it's just confusing and stressful. Like, people don't know what they're looking for. Like, for example, with a new phone, people kind of know what they want out of it. They might want a big screen or long battery life or a really good set of cameras, but with a plan, all people know is like, okay, I want enough data and I want solid coverage. And again, everyone is going to say that they have those things. But there's things like prioritization, postpaid versus prepaid, video streaming quality, taxes and fees. You need a credit check or you don't have to go through a credit check. These are all together difficult things to understand and kind of put together for a plan. So I try to explain all this stuff as simply as I can so people are more informed and they not just know what to get, but they know more about it.
Have the carriers learned anything from their MVNOs? Like, for example, uh, how can the carrier simplify things and reduce confusion? Well, look at Mint Mobile. I'll use them as a great example. Great story. Made it simple. It's $15 a month. Really? Yeah. Now you have to pay for 3 months in advance, but that's $45, and I'm getting 3 months of service, good amount of data buckets, great network. They're on the T-Mobile network, and you know, $15 a month versus what you said. For one line, 30 to 70. What have the carriers learned, or what have the carriers failed to recognize to make it that simple?
So I think we are moving in the right direction. People are understanding a little more. Prices are lower generally, especially among the MVNOs, because people are more informed and there's more competition. And there's concerns about competition going down. I fully agree with that, with mergers and buyouts and such. But generally, we are getting more competition and more viable players in the market. Um, I think the best ways carriers can reduce confusion is using industry-wide terms. Like the government should say, "Hey, we have these guidelines in place. Use these terms. Tell us, how much data you get, what's prioritized or what's deprioritized." And this is something carriers probably do not want to do because they kind of want to have their own narrative. And like that kind of goes along with quoting a fully accurate price instead of an advertised price, then your state taxes, and then your extra fees. You should be able to put your zip code into the carrier website and see exactly the bill that you'll be paying each month. And we've already made some progress in these areas, right? We have the FCC mandated nutrition labels for those plans. And those are great, but they are still a little challenging to understand. And I'm definitely in support of them. They're definitely a step ahead, but I think there's even more we could do. And customers would appreciate that. And if the carrier was more transparent, the customer would trust them more.
How does honest, unbiased content comparing wireless plans encourage competition in the industry?
I think generally people trust honest, unbiased content a lot more because, again, it's my script, not theirs, and it's coming from someone that is just looking at what is objectively the best, as opposed to what messaging does the carrier want to spread to the consumer. And if more people are moving towards getting their information from creators like me instead of just looking on a carrier's website or going into the carrier store where you're in their bubble in a sense, then carriers are going to be compelled to offer something that's like legitimately a better product that's actually more competitive in the eyes of someone like me who's comparing everything side by side.
Okay, interesting. You have 4,000 subscribers. What's your goal? I know the world is your oyster right now. You may not recognize it yet, but I think what you're onto is positioned to really to have a long-term, very important uh, business here in the wireless industry. Where do you want to take it from 4,000?
Well, I say as many subscribers as I can get. I'm definitely working on making my content like more appealing for people to watch and more discoverable when people are searching for this type of information. So I definitely want to grow my channel to as big as I can, and obviously my X and Instagram accounts as well to put more information out on those. And any new formats, any new ways that I can provide this information, I'm going to adapt to. And I'm certainly open to in the future, writing out reports for carriers, giving them information maybe from more of a consumer perspective, which is something they could definitely use to their advantage.
Okay. I don't know if you've thought about this because you don't have the type of expenses or mortgages that people do. How do you monetize what you're doing right now?
Well, so I'm part of the YouTube Partner Program, which any YouTube channel that meets a certain threshold can have ads placed on their videos, and YouTube obviously gives them a share of that. And like I mentioned before, the carrier affiliate programs, where if people join different plans with my links, then I'll receive actually a really good kickback. I did not
Well,
expect
we
to.
say we say commissions. We don't
Yep.
say kickback. Okay.
Good point. I receive really good commission,
Thank you.
way higher than I was expecting
Okay.
when I first joined these programs. And
I
it's
see.
I'm never going to recommend something because I'm in their affiliate program. It's more that
Right.
if I'm recommending something and I happen to also be in their program, I'll share that link so I could get a
Great.
commission.
Okay. I'm blown away by what
Wow,
you've done in a very short amount of time. Congratulations to you, Max.
thank you.
I want to contact you. One of our listeners or viewers of our podcast wants to contact you. We're going to put up your information right now. Tell us a little bit about what's the best way. Is it email? Is it text messaging? Is it your website? How's the best way to get a hold of Max right now and say, count me in?
Yeah, well, probably just emailing me or leaving a comment on one of my videos or one of my posts on X.
Okay, and your email is, we can see it now, but why don't you tell us what it is?
maxtechstudios.business@gmail.com. And I also have a link tree. So if you go to linktr.ee/maxtechstudios, you'll get just a list of everywhere you can find me, my YouTube, email, all of that stuff.
Very good. Very good. Well, I can't help myself. But from now on, you're no longer Max to me. You're young Sheldon. You have you have really
Wow.
impressed us, and the folks behind the window here in the control room are like going like thumbs up and like this is amazing for a young man
Yeah, thank you.
to have this kind of content. So I want to thank you for coming on the broadcast, and I do want to see this episode on your website
All
when we
right.
release it. And yeah, in closing, anything else you'd like to end with before we wrap up here?
Well, I know a lot of carriers are listening to this, so I just want to say, be more transparent for the customer, genuinely offer something better. And again, when you're transparent about it, people are going to trust you more. And so they're going to be more likely to buy what you're selling.
Well, very good, great advice, and maybe they have to hear it from other people like you. Remember the name Max Hietpas if you're in the wireless industry, because he's going to be around for a while. Okay, Max, thank you again for coming on today. It was really a pleasure to speak with you all week and to do this with you today. And best of luck, continued good luck with scaling your business. That's going to wrap it up for us today for another episode of the Boon of Wireless podcast. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.